intro and for connecting such a distinguished panel to discuss a topic of global concern in our current challenging geopolitical and economic environment, managing risks for development banks. My name is Lima Dajani, and as the Revenue Risk Officer of UNASA's Treasury and Capital Markets Business Unit, I will be moderating our session today. We are very lucky to have in our panel subject matter experts, and while I'm eager to kick off the discussion, I would like to hand over to our esteemed speakers for the brief intro. Athina, would you kindly take the lead, please?
Hello to everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I'm also honored to participate in such a fascinating panel and in a very interesting topic. So we are here to discuss on the role of development banks. As we all know, development banks have a very crucial role in promoting growth and sustainable development. Today, moreover, the war in Ukraine and its geostrategic and energy implications shape a much more unstable world in which our governments and financial institutions are called upon to develop timely, effective, and far-sighted policies. In terms of financial downturn, development financial institutions can be a part of a counter-cycle public policy toolkit, though the provision of favorable financing, like, for example, risk-sharing loans and guarantees, enable commercial banks to expand lending to SMEs. Third, development banks fill the gaps left by private financial institutions, which are mostly geared towards commercial activities. And as an example to that is the main gap, is considered the main gap, that is insufficient finance for economic transformation. What do we mean by that? We mean large-scale projects with long maturation periods, which require long-term finance and thus imply risks that banks are unwilling to undertake. Moreover, development banks can be instrumental not only in addressing market failures, but as a critical tool in supporting a proactive development strategy. So, development banks have the ability to remove bottlenecks. How? By fostering the transition towards open market-oriented economies and promoting private entrepreneurial initiatives. This is what we are doing in HDB. Unlike commercial banks, HDB, as a multilateral financial institution which stays always on the front line of financial crisis and helps viable SMEs to access funding, is a strategic enabler, mobilizer, and implementer of investments. We generate shared value not just for customers and shareholders, but for the society as a whole and the environment as a whole. Our mission is to support Greek SMEs by facilitating their access to finance. Our mission is to address and cover market failures as a gap filler. And to give you some concrete figures on our contribution to ease the burden in Greece, HDB has more than 8.5 billion euros loans under management, disbursed loans. And to give you a sizing on that, the Greek economy has approximately 60 billion performing loans, so it's 8.5 of 60 billion. And we have built this capacity coming from January and February of 2020 with only 280 million euros under management. During this period, we have granted more than 23,000 loans. We have generated direct jobs of circa 20,000. And most importantly, we managed to have a time to market period of 3 months. According to the surveillance report, we have contributed to GDP circa by 7.7 billion. That means for every euro of GVA created by HDB loan programs, the bank contributed with an additional 2 euros to Greek GDP. We measure our customer satisfaction by a percentage of 80%. And we support actively the sustainability agenda. We incorporate ESG criteria in our new financial instruments by an ESG tracker and an innovative score tool. And all in all, we develop a part of the financial tools and non-financial support with digital and innovative tools that aim to assist SMEs understanding their sustainable footprint and weaknesses and benchmark their performance.
That That's amazing, Athina. Thank you very much for the well-rounded background and achievements that you have brought along with your team of experts in Hellenic Development Bank. Again, Athina is the CEO of Hellenic Development Bank, has been leading it, and she just gave us testimony of the achievements that have been made, showing once and again how important role development banks play within an economy. Athina, I would like you to address this question. And in your opinion, are development banks doing, or what should they be doing right now to ease the burden on emerging and developing economies in these trying conditions?
I think I preempted, let's say, the question already and elaborated previously, but I wanted to add on that. I would like to add on the following. Development banks are playing a very important role in two circumstances. One is the anti-cyclical role when a pandemic or a crisis or an energy crisis comes along. So it's the vehicle, it's the catalyst on throwing public money into the market, assisting with several schemes the financing of the economy, and at the same time is during situations where a transformation of the economy is, let's say, the most important priority. When it comes to transformation of the economy, that is the period that we are having now, primarily in the part of the world I'm living in, Europe, there is a very important approach coming from decisions of the EU, saying that we want to transform the economy, make it more aligned to the sustainability agenda, make it more digital driven, including on this digital transformation, primarily what we call education, reskilling, upskilling of a generation that is actually my generation, that is that has different skills than currently required. And this process is also supported by development banks. Why? Because the large scale of financing that is needed is will again pass through schemes and organizations and financial institutions such as development banks. Although we have played a role, development banks have played a role during the pandemic, now they're playing and we are playing as HDB a different role during the growth and transformation of the economy. And having risk-sharing schemes assisting, let's say, the balance sheet of the commercial banks and of other vehicles, such as insurance schemes, or the servicers at some point, or by creating what we call hybrid schemes through mezzanine financing, etc. And at the same time, although there is a very prominent investment on big projects that triggers money from very big institutions and very big investors, we are here to create the environment, to create the ability of SMEs to complement those big financing projects, those big projects towards sustainability. And in that sense, we follow and we contribute on new technologies such as hydrogen, such as new fintech projects, etc., towards the creation of an environment that surrounds the big investments.
Very interesting, Athina, that you mentioned these topics of transformation, because it is actually something I think all economies and sectors need to address, the new requirements and the new sectors that are being brought about, and to push to expedite this transformation. So definitely having development banks play a major role in supporting this, especially given that the funding that they bring along is not one driven by profitability, but rather by sustainability and ultimately with the ultimate goal of growing the economy.
And we call it, Rima, just to use a Greek word, we call it metamorphose.
Yes,
so it's a changing of a form. So it's such sharp. The transformation is very sharp. And it will change completely the way we work for us and for all the economies. The upskilling, the reskilling of the labor, blue collars as well as primarily white collars, is in such a shortage at this stage to address the industries that will be developed very, very, very soon, that we need to support actively the whole transformation, yes.
Yeah, and trigger it and to some extent metamorphosis and expedite it to some extent. But now we know definitely that some currencies have been affected by a stronger dollar. So from your perspective, do you rely on international funding to some extent, and how are you luring these funds to come in and invest in ventures otherwise they would consider as riskier?
Yes, right. That is very correct, because currently we face in this part of the planet, we face a new challenge. Europe is losing its strength versus the prime currencies such as dollar, and in addition to that, we face a new challenge: the interest rates increase. Yeah. So, as development banks, although our prime, let's say, activity is to structure, guarantee, and risk-sharing schemes, we now facing this new challenge, and this is also adding to an unforeseen inflation that threatens the ability of SMEs to survive, and to survive once again following, let's say, the pandemic, and primarily in Greece following a 10-year financial crisis. Thus, in HDB, in this part, let's say, of the economy, what we see, although we have in place and we continue to elaborate on risk-sharing schemes, what we saw as a priority is to find a way to address the cost of funding that is squeezing once again the ability and the ability of the SMEs to stay, to protect their profitability. Although this was not our prime, let's say, strategy, we see it as a need, and at the same time as an opportunity to contribute and to add on towards this direction. So by saying that, we have started implementing co-financing schemes, co-funding, let's say, schemes, whereas we zero our part of the cost of funding, and in that sense, we assist the ability of the SME to have access to finance with lower cost. We in that sense, we protect once again their ability to survive, and their ability, let's say, to overcome the impact of the inflation, the impact of the interest rates increase, the impact of a weaker currency that affects us, primarily affects countries and markets such as Greece, that the balance of the imports versus exports is lower, because as we all know, a weaker euro is more attractive when it comes to exports, whereas the contrary comes to the other way around. The good thing is that we have we are above average, as I have seen on the Eurostat figures. We have an above average independency when it comes to energy, which is good news. we are much better than the average of Europe, and we address the cost of funding by lowering and by contributing, let's say, by cooperating with commercial banks when it comes to access to finance and the cost of access to finance. And we create, in that sense, a different approach towards the basket of products that we could offer to SMEs, and use this strategy for the economy overall.
Thank you, Athina.
Rima, may I contribute a little bit? Just
of course.
And let's say by putting the head of let's say of the operational research academic, let's say my academic background, I believe that as Christoph mentioned, our ability to predict is currently based on outdated econometric models. We used to know that there are currencies, that they are currencies that have relations, that they have, there is a, let's say, there are specific trends in the market. Now we see unforeseen things. We don't know how crypto will develop. And in addition to that, I believe that as corporations, what we have to follow, and financial institutions in general, but also development banks are financial institutions at the end of the day, we follow a very basic risk. And our very basic risk is the environment. Our very basic risk as citizens of this planet is the asymmetries on income, as already mentioned, is the possible social unrest or any kind of unrest. And in that sense, we need to change our economic model overall, and we need to shift our focus from the overconsumption and the overproduction to the sustainability agenda. These are two very conflicting senses. And as financial institutions, we need to identify the part of the economy that serves this agenda, the sustainability agenda. So this is not a very, we cannot use previous econometric models. We cannot use, let's say, the parameter of low labor cost, because currently we have robotics. So what is the reason of having as decision-making tool where the labor cost is cheaper? Because the robot has the same price everywhere in the world. So why we should have as dimension to the overproduction, where energy is very, very expensive, is a threat to the environment, and produces all this kind of issues. Why we should focus on the overproduction, where there is a disruption on the food chain. That's why we as economists overall, we need to rebuild our econometric models using, as much as we can, new tools. That's why we want to test and smell the trends by having, for example, we have all this kind of hackathons and whatever. We see what the new generation is imagining as the future of the planet. And we encourage not only the R&D, but going from R&D and patent into the market. So we focus our financing towards this direction. We want to finance patents. We want to finance proof of concepts. We want to shift and influence the SMEs towards a direction that is let's say, effective towards the sustainability agenda. They don't really know taxonomy, and they don't want to know taxonomy of 900 pages. But they know and they understand that using a panel for net metering is something that goes directly to their cost of goods sold line. In that sense, and also in creating with market forces platforms such as the Know Your Customer platform that we are introducing end of January, by having an aim on increasing what we call bankable periphery, is giving an injection towards the part of the market that is having as vision a new economy. And this part of the market is the youth, is the people that not only are able to visualize the future, but at the end of the day will enjoy the future more. And we support this trend, and we are here to be taught by the new generation on what is that they want to have as planet in the future. So we believe that this is our commitment, and we follow the main risk and the main opportunity, and we influence the investors and the financing community towards this direction. Thank you.
Athina, this is literally beautiful. And as Chris just said, unfortunately, we will not be answering additional questions because we're on time. We will leave you all with so much to reflect on. Athina, you are so right. We need to move away from an economy of overconsumption to sustainability. We need to train ourselves to think ahead so that we can sustain the beautiful planet we are on and reassess our consumptions, our needs, and live within what we really need. One additional question was on China reopening and inflation. Well, I'm not even going to go there. We can address it maybe separately, because we do not want to go back. We want this forum, and ultimately whomever is attending, to rethink and to support this idea of moving away from the overconsumption attitude, to think of sustainability, what youth wants moving forward, learning from us, the predecessors, what we have done that hasn't led to any good, and look at economics and the theories we've been adopting, align them to what the future needs in order to sustain a better future for everyone. I would like to thank you all for this very interesting participation and discussion. I have been honored to be here on discussing these pertinent issues at this time. Thank you, Athina, for your precious time. Ahmad, Fabian, Vijay, and Chris from your island. I hope you enjoyed, and that the weather becomes better for you to be able to go back home. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.